Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bruce Sherman, Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner in Chevy Chase. The district is 02, and I'm very happy tonight to be hosting a sequel to the conversation we had with Stephanie. And Chris, were you with us the last time as well? Yes, you
I
were.
was.
Back in February on the draft DC bottle bill. That's our topic tonight, given that it's making its way through the DC Council, and ANC 34G is going to take it up on October 27th. So I've indicated to my colleagues on the commission and people in the community that I thought it would be a good idea to do another round of consultation, bring everybody up to speed, review the basics, take further questions as a way of preparing for the commission to consider it. So tonight we're welcoming back Stephanie Miller of Zero Waste in DC and Chris Powell of the Sierra Club to do exactly that, to bring us up to speed. And I thank them both for taking the time once again to be with us. And so what we're going to do very simply is have them, if they wish to provide further introductions of themselves, fine, they can do that. And then to very quickly, Stephanie is going to go through their PowerPoint presentation, and then Chris is going to bring us up to speed on what happened in the DC Council hearing on October 1 and other developments, so that those of you on the call have a nice round picture of what's going on, and then we can take your questions, comments, and exhaust all of our energy, sign off, and say it was a great briefing. So with that, Stephanie, if you would like to go ahead and get started, I have allowed you to share your screen, so you should be able to pull it up.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Thanks for the introduction. Let me just quickly share. Okay, can you see the first slide?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to quickly introduce myself again. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Miller, Ward 4 resident. I've been a DC resident for more than 35 years. I'm a small business owner, but tonight I'm coming to you as a volunteer with the Sierra Club and a volunteer with the Bottle Bill Coalition, which we refer to as, you can see here, 3RC for DC. And Chris Powell, my colleague, is also a very active volunteer with the Sierra Club and with the Bottle Bill Coalition. So we will together bring you up to speed quickly on what has happened essentially since February when we last met. So this is the problem. I don't know if you remember this slide, but this hasn't changed, unfortunately. The problem is trash in DC, and specifically beverage container pollution in DC. We see it in our parks, we see it in our river waterways. I live near Rock Creek Park. I see it every time I walk in Rock Creek Park. It's a problem in the Anacostia and the Potomac. The Anacostia River has been assigned by the EPA or given the title of impaired by trash. And it turns out that when you collect the trash that's in the Anacostia River, 60% of it by weight is plastic bottles, and plastic bottles are pretty light. So it's a lot of plastic bottles. There are various problems that the bottle bill would solve for DC, but this is the really the key one. And I'm going to explain why in a moment. Quick rundown. So you recall when we met in February, the bill had just been introduced on January 15th by Councilmember Nadeau, and she was joined by 10 other council members who co-introduced the bill. We've provided some links here for people to follow up, and if they want to see our webpage as well as Councilmember Nadeau's webpage and frequently asked questions about the bill, please feel free to go there. But as we said, the bill has been sitting in the Committee on Business and Economic Development, which just held a hearing on October 1. And the next phase in the legislative process is it will move in mid-November to the Committee on Transportation and Environment, chaired by Charles Allen. So that's sort of where we are in the timeline right now. This is why bottle bills work. So, the headline, we like to say they cut trash, you can earn cash. They do cut trash. We know from the 10 states that have bottle bills, and I'm going to give you the statistics in a second, they drastically cut trash. And they help some folks earn trash because there's incentive now to pick up those bottles that are strewn in the parks, in the rivers, lining the rivers, and get them to a redemption center. So here's what happens. Bottles, and we're talking here about most bottles, most beverage containers, in plastic, in glass, in aluminum. There are a few exceptions, dairy, for example, and some medicines, but most beverages, um, the sodas and the water bottles are brought back. Their 10-cent deposit is set on those containers, and it's immediately refunded when the bottle is returned. What that does very simply is create an incentive for people to want to return the bottles. And if for some reason they don't, maybe they're tourists and they've got bad habits, whatever is lying around can be picked up by someone else and they can get that 10 cents back. And I will just say, I just did a road trip through New York, which is one of the 10 bottle bill states. And I was at a gas station. There was one of these reverse vending machines. I'm going to show you a picture. I put a bottle in and I got this little receipt out for 5 cents for the bottle I put in. Who pays for this? Not the consumers, not the retailers. The people who pay are the ones who package their beverages in these containers, the beverage companies. And they will, if the bill is passed, they will pay a handling fee to cover the costs associated with setting up the program that would allow these bottles to be returned to retailers. Retailers in the bottle bill that we have before us would get a 4-cent handling fee to be able to cover the per bottle, to be able to cover the costs associated with leasing or buying, for example, the reverse vending machine and any other costs. There's always what we know, there are always some deposits that go unclaimed. So it's foreseen in the bill that there would be a fund set up to pay for things that DC residents have said they want to see, like water bottle refill stations or filters for residents that have lead service lines, things like that. This is what on the left, this is what a reverse vending machine can look like, does look like. Instead of you put the money in and you get your bottle, your beverage out, it's the opposite. You put your bottle in and you get your stub that tells you what money is due back. You take it to the register and you get your money back, or you can apply it to whatever you're buying. There's the reverse vending machine concept, and then there's the bottle drop concept. It will really be up to the organization that goes through the implementation of this infrastructure in DC to set up whatever makes sense for DC. But those are the typical things that we've seen in the other states that work really well. This is what we're after. We know from the data, from the 10 states that have bottle bills, that the drastic reduction in beverage container litter is what they see once they implement these bills is between 69% reduction and 84% reduction. We expect in DC to have over 80% because what's in the bottle bill is a 10-cent deposit, not a 5-cent deposit, which some of the much older bills had, and some of them are actually revisiting that now to strengthen the bottle bills, some of those states to bring it up to 10 cents. We also know that when this litter is reduced, we also see recycling rates dramatically climb. I'm curious to know whether any of you knows what the current level of recycling is in DC for beverage containers. Any guesses? 25%.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's low. It's very, very low. What this bill will do is at least triple the recycling rates for beverage containers. We expect to see upwards of 75% recycling rates for beverage containers. So one issue that gets raised is, well, if the beverage companies now have to pay a fee for this, won't that mean they will pass on the price, their cost, to consumers? It's not a lot of money for them, but it is, they are the ones bearing the cost. And the answer is that's not what the research bears out. There have been studies on this. Massachusetts, I think, was the latest one to do a survey where Massachusetts is one of the bottle bill states. They actually looked at costs of the beverages in bottle bill states with states that are neighboring with states that don't have bottle bills. And there was consistent pricing. There was no notable increase in the beverage prices for those states that had bottle bills. So there's a lot of talk about this by beverage companies. DC is going to see its prices increase. That's not what the research bears out. That's not what the evidence shows. These are the 14 ANCs that so far have passed resolutions in favor of a DC bottle bill. Chris and I'm going to hand it over to Chris now, but Chris and I are available to answer your questions now. We're available to answer your questions later. And the two people leading the coalition are Chris Weiss and Susan Shore. And I'm putting their contact information up. They are also available to answer your questions, but I'll stop there for now. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Stephanie. And Chris, we'll turn it over to you. And Stephanie, if you'll there we go. Over to you, Chris, for an update on the DC Council hearing on the 1st of October and other developments.
Okay, thank you, Bruce, and thank you, Stephanie, for going through the background. As Stephanie and Bruce mentioned, on October 1st, the bill had its first hearing. It was in Councilmember McDuffie's committee, the Business and Economic Development Committee. And it was quite a long day, and part of the evening started in the morning and went up till I think about 8 o'clock at night. So that tells you how many people are very interested in this topic. There were about 200, somewhere in the area of 200 people that testified. I would say that about 3/4 of them testified in support of the bill. And many of those people had come from one of the other 10 bottle bill states. So they were very familiar with the concept and how it works. There were also representatives from the beverage distributors and some small business owners that were there. Some of them, well, I think all of them expressed that they need to understand more how this will work and how it will affect their particular business. And of course, that's one of the reasons that these types of hearings are held, so the council members can understand what the questions and concerns are, and then those can be addressed. With the small business owners, some of the breweries, distilleries in DC, some of the store owners, there were many council members in and out of the hearing all day. Many of them had other hearings and votes they had to go to, but they all expressed an interest in wanting to hear what the questions were, the concerns, and then working with these business owners and distributors to try and address those questions. So that's what's happening now. The next steps of where this may go, as Stephanie mentioned, on November 15th, then the bill automatically moves to the Committee on Environment and Transportation. It is unknown at this time if Councilmember McDuffie is actually going to mark up the bill and ask the committee to pass it out. So a marked up bill will go to the next committee, or if the original bill would go to the Committee on Environment and Transportation. That's Charles Allen's committee, and then he can determine from there what he would like to do. Some of the, I just want to bring up a couple of the concerns of that we heard in the hearing. There were several business owners there that were concerned of the effects on their business and what their responsibilities were going to be. But it turned out that they're actually exempt from the bill, because the bill exempts stores under establishment stores and bars under 2,000 square feet, and any bar or restaurant that actually serves drinks on site. So many of these business owners didn't realize they're actually going to be exempt, because the bottle bills really look at the big beverage manufacturers and distributors as the ones who should really financially support and the program going forward. Other concerns were or questions, they weren't all concerns, some of them were questions, were the 4%, as Stephanie mentioned, the 4% handling fee that the businesses will get for each container that they are sending to the recycling center. And then areas to either store beverage containers that they have taken back, or where they would actually figure out where to place a reverse vending machine. So it's, the bill's now at the point where we're getting down to now discussing some of the logistics of how that works. The first year of the bill sets up the stewardship organization that actually manages that, and they will work through a lot of these other issues and concerns, and they will meet with all the distributors and businesses. But overwhelmingly right now, we still have 11 council members who support it, and we're very eager to get the bill to move forward. We are asking you, along with the other 14 AMCs, to consider passing a resolution to support the bottle bill in concept, knowing that all the details haven't been worked out. And some of the other AMCs have actually written in their resolution that they're asking the commissioners to work with the public and the business owners to really start to work out the details.
Great, Chris. Thank you for that. That's very, very helpful. I want to turn it over to questions. I've got two quick questions. The first is, why does Mayor Bowser oppose the bill?
So yes, thank you for bringing that up, Bruce. I should have mentioned that. Mayor Bowser's legislative director spoke at the hearing and said even though she believes that DC needs to move forward with our green initiatives and green legislation, she said that she was concerned about the economic environment in DC and did not feel that this was the time to be implementing a bottle return bill. So I think we can assume that those discussions are happening behind the scenes between the 11 council members who support it and the mayor.
Has she indicated, or has her legislative director indicated that she might veto it if it were passed?
No, there was actually no mention of that, Bruce.
Okay. On the small business side, back in February, the commission did hear from a few small business owners on Connecticut Avenue, Upper Connecticut Avenue. And one of those, Key Yoon, who owns Magruder's, testified on October 1st. And he has expressed his reservations. And if I recall correctly, Uh, they include having the facility to return bottles on site at his store. Would that be required of a small business owner like Key, that he would have a return or either reverse vending machine or some type of other return facility at his store?
Yes, with his square footage, as I understand, he would be required to be part of this program. Councilmember Nadeau met with him previously, and again, she and other council members are continuing to meet with the small business owners, I believe, including him also.
Okay. He might, of course, since he is in our ANC, prominently positioned on Connecticut Avenue, he might return to our meeting on October 27th. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for those answers. I'll turn it over to folks on the call. First to my colleague, Liz Nagy. Liz, do you have any questions?
I do. Thank you, Bruce. So I was talking to a friend of mine who weirdly is an international tax lawyer, right? And about the bottle bill. And the very first thing she said is, what do you do about people who live in a border, I don't want to say border town, but Maryland, Chevy Chase, Maryland, to be clear, who bring their bottles to Magruder's, who now bears the burden of recycling bottles for Maryland. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, shall I go ahead, Chris?
Either way, Stephanie, go ahead.
So one of the ways that the other states deal with ensuring that they're only taking bottles back from their state, and this would be true for DC, is there's an embedded UPC code that would essentially tag the bottle as being DC, a DC generated bottle. And so the Maryland bottles would not be accepted, for example, in a Magruder's machine, which is, as Key Eunice said, he's right across the border. And I will just tell you, when I demoed this machine in New York, I don't purchase things in cans or bottles very much, but I was waiting for my husband, and there were 2 cans lying next to the machine. And so I thought, I'm going to try this out. And I put one in and it got rejected. And I think that's why it was rejected. It was not a New York, or it wasn't the right type. I don't know, but I think it was rejected because it wasn't a New York bottle. And the other one was accepted. And I didn't redeem, but I got my 5 cents back. So that's one of the ways of dealing with this. And of course, I'm going to talk about Magruder's, since he's a constituent and a businessman, and many of us frequent Magruder's and know them well.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of his customers are in Maryland, but just like there is residential recycling in DC, there is residential recycling in Maryland, and those Maryland customers can take their bottles, use them at home, and if they have single family homes, put them in the recycle bin at home. But they would not get their deposit back.
And
They would not get their deposit back if they were trying to bring Maryland soda cans back to Magruder's.
I'll just add, the code Stephanie's talked about, if you've been to a bottle bill return state, you'll just see on the bottom, towards the bottom of the bill, it will have a list of states that can take it back. Like it'll say NY, CA. In this case, it would say DC. So it's easy to tell if you have a container that was bought in DC and can be returned for a deposit in DC. That's one of the ways the bottle bill programs prevent fraud. So we don't have people returning containers and collecting deposits for containers they didn't buy here.
I assume there'll be a learning curve for people, joining DC. And I didn't just gratuitously mention that she was an international tax attorney, because when I said, why did you pick this immediately? And she said, because I think about borders. That's what I do. Sorry, I should have said that earlier,
Yeah.
because it sounds like why,
Yeah.
But I think there'll be a learning curve where, people from Maryland bring their bottles back, get them rejected enough times, and kind of get the message, and maybe they'll lobby Maryland
Mhm.
for a bottle bill.
Yeah.
So,
And Maryland, in that vein, Maryland has been working on a bottle bill. It was introduced in legislative session this year and made some progress, and then the session ended before they came out with the law. But there's a big constituency in Maryland that will be looking to have that introduced again in the next session.
well, thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
John, do you have a
I
question?
have a question. Yes, I have a question or two. Sorry, I had to go on the phone. My wife called, so I probably missed some essential information. Um, I support the bottle bill. I'm glad that so many council members have already included support for it. And I presume that with that number, a veto by the mayor would be overridden because there are so many. At least now there are. My question is, um, how does this affect, and how has it affected in other states that have the bottle bills, low-income people who don't have the kind of resources perhaps that we do, and 10 cents for a bottle, or a bottle of something is not a big deal for me, but it is for somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck or less than that. So that's my one question, and I'll have another later.
I can take that, Stephanie. Well, I think the bottle bill will positively affect them in a couple different ways. I'd first like to say that Councilmember Nadeau, when she actually had the legislation written, conferred a lot with other states and with local communities,
Good.
especially Ward 7, 8,
Yes.
to make sure that there is a way for them and everybody in every ward to conveniently redeem these beverage containers. Because if you spend that extra 10 cents, and it's really important for you to get that deposit back, we need to make it convenient for people who are working or people who don't have access to automobiles to drive
Yes.
them somewhere. So the bill actually spells that out. And that will be part of the one of the major focuses of the stewardship organization that is established that first year. Are we hitting all constituency DC? That's one way. A second way is there is, in the other states with bottle bills, there's developed businesses that are called canners. And these are people that actually make money by, in this case, they would go around DC and find beverage containers that were bought in DC and have the code, but people still, even with this program, threw them in the Anacostia or threw them in the park or threw them by the side of the road, and they pick those up and they redeem those. And I've heard some people say from New York that the New York bill wouldn't be a success if it wasn't for these canners. The third way is the stewardship organization has the ability to look at unclaimed deposits. Stephanie mentioned that earlier. We know that not everyone who pays a deposit on a container is actually going to take the time to redeem it. They may be very concerned about the environment, but they may not be concerned about getting their 10 cents back. the stewardship organization, along with DOEE, Department of Environment and Energy, who will oversee the program, has the ability to set up a program if they'd like that. Those unclaimed deposits can be, or our deposits, if we don't claim them, if we don't redeem them, can be transferred to schools, churches, scout troops, nonprofits, things like that. So that's a way for some of these organizations to actually make income off of that. How that would work in DC right now is yet to be worked out.
And
Okay.
just
Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, this is not specifically with respect to your question on low income folks, but in the interest of time, I didn't show a slide that related to fundraising efforts that we see in other states that take place around the concept of the bottle deposits. So let's say in a more affluent area, people don't, maybe students in a school collect the cans and the bottles, bring them to the school, and the school uses those deposits to fund certain projects in the school. So I didn't mention that, but that's been, I think, a very successful part of the bottle bill reputation in the other 10 states.
Okay. So basically, if I think I understood, if the 10 cent per container bill goes into effect, then the person buying a can of soda on their way to work or whatever, walking or biking or even on the bus, they're not. Then they're at their office, so they have to bring that empty can back with them. And this is somebody who doesn't have a lot of money, so they bring the empty can back with them so that they can have it to get a refund later in the week when they have several of them accumulated, I guess. So, okay. Otherwise, they just toss it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, John.
No, go ahead.
One clarification that if you bought the container in DC at a local store, you don't necessarily have to return it to that same store. You can return it anywhere in DC that is a redemption center.
Got it. Okay. All right. Okay. And my other question is, obviously, things are not marked with a specific DC imprint on the can or the bottle right now, and that will be a transition. But how is it, just how does the machine recognize it? Is it like a barcode? Or it can't just say DC on there and that's what it does, but must be some kind of a marking.
It is. Exactly. It is a type of barcode.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Good questions, John. Thank you.
Okay.
I've got a couple, but I don't want to interfere with anyone else's questions. Any others on the call, if you have a question, feel free just to jump in. No need to raise your hand. There are just a few of us here.
Okay.
Bonnie, please go ahead.
Raise my hand anyway. This
There you
may
go.
be this may be one of the ones that will come out later as they're creating more finer detail, but that's usually where I suffer. In any event, if I buy a liter bottle of something and I pay $1 for it, I'll pay 10 cents, I'll pay $1.10, take it home and drink it. And you're saying the price of the dollar bottle will not go up $1.10 because it will not impact on me. With the greatest respect, I've lived 80 plus years. I don't believe that. I think we're going to then you've got the 80-year-old who currently shops like a little beaver, buys my canned beverages, my bottled beverages. I avoid plastic like the plague, but I do get things in aluminum cans. I get them delivered to me. Very nice. Don't have to carry those puppies for in and out. Now you're putting on, but the price, I believe you say no, and I disagree. They're going to tack that 10 cents on each container. They are, it will happen. And my prices will go up. Now, I'm 80 years old, and you really want me to gather my drink beverages And the machine that you showed earlier, Stephanie, it showed this, that, and the other, and I was trying to read, and it said, scan the barcode. That sounded to this ear like it would require a cell phone.
Hmm.
What do I scan with? I don't have a cell phone. And I'm saying it's gonna cost me more, it's gonna cost me more energy, more effort to take them back to the redemption place. This is not fair to fixed income elderly people. It's very unfair. In the 50s, it was 2 cents a bottle. They were glass. I rode my bicycle and I collected them. The consumers gave them to me. That's how I made money. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to go around searching the streets and try to collect the cans and try to break even financially. I see this one hurting me just as the deposit on plastic bags hurt me financially. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. It's actually good to hear your perspective on this. So on your first point, I can't argue with you. I won't argue with you. I can only tell you that we've got 10 states that have had bottle bills for many years. And they have, there's more, I can send you the data. They've done analysis back to back, state with neighboring state, bottle deposit bill state, non-bottle deposit bill state, and they're not seeing the increase in prices. I would make the same assumption as you, but I think for the beverage companies, they can absorb the margin that is required for them to manage what, by the way, they used to manage in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, which was the return system. They would collect those bottles because they wanted those bottles back. Once plastic came in, they wanted to push that on us to take care of, not to bring the bottles back into their system for refilling. So the price piece, I want to be able to convince you. I'd be happy to send you some articles if you would like. I don't know exactly how to address your convenience issue that you're raising. I think it's a very valid point. I'm assuming in my youth, I also collected bottles and got the extra money, and maybe I'm not going to do that anymore at my age, and maybe you're not going to do that anymore at your age. But so now it's just about bringing that empty back to the store. Or maybe someone will, maybe there are neighbors who will collect various people's bottles and help them get their deposit back. I don't have
But
a
I
solution.
have the product delivered to me. I don't get it in a
Oh,
store.
I see. Right. You said that. You said that. Yeah.
But, well, I could just say one thing. If the product is sold in DC, it's going to have that UPC code and the deposit. So distributors will, in order to sell any product in DC, they're going to have to comply with those regulations. Now, your concern about returning them, convenience is very much a top concern, not only for Councilmember Nadeau, but for all the council members who support this bill. And that's why they say right in the bill that they want to make sure it is as convenient as possible. Where those centers will be or what stores still to be worked out, but hopefully there will be one convenient to you.
So let me add, Bonnie, to your situation. So your story, your situation raises some interesting possibilities. One, and I don't know, Chris and Stephanie, if this has come up at all, those very delivery services, let's say you're purchasing from Whole Foods and they've delivered to your house and you have cans. Well, the next time they deliver something to you, would they pick up the cans? I don't know if that's been thought about, but I'll just say this. we also do all we can humanly possible to avoid buying plastic. We hate plastic. So I have a Coke can, and I want to ask a question about this. We typically buy these in 12 packs. I drink more Coke, my kids tell me, than I should. But when I buy that 12 pack, it's 12 times 10, correct? So it's another
Yes.
$1.20.
Yes.
Okay, just to be clear on that. Now, on that pricing issue, what I understood you to say about no increase in pricing
It
was
will.
not that the retailer wouldn't tack on the deposit, but that the product otherwise would not increase in cost.
Correct.
Is that a fair distinction?
That's absolutely the distinction, because
Oh, okay.
it's
Okay.
just the
But
deposit,
I'm gonna be paying the extra 10 cents per container.
but
Right,
you'll
right.
get it back. Yeah.
Right. Now, here's a related
Load
concern.
them in my car, drive them to it. Yeah, no.
Right. So here's a related concern, which is just sticker shock. And I'm going to give you another example. So we have a milkman, all right, South Mountain Creamery. I'll do a little ad for them. And we get milk delivered in bottles. Now, it happens sometimes that we're away and we didn't get the milk delivered. So we go to the store and we buy the same product at Safeway. Well, it's usually, yeah, it's Safeway. Whole Foods has another milk company. But when I buy this product at Safeway, in the first instance, the milk is more expensive. And then there's a $3 deposit on this bottle. I think the milk is $5.99. The $3 makes it $8.99. And we do it, but it's sticker shock. It would be for a lot of people because they look at that plastic bottle and it's $3.79 or $4.29, and they're going to say, what the heck? Now, of course, if you have a deposit on everything, and this is obviously an exception because it's $3, it's a totally different thing, which I get. But I'm just going to the point that maybe Bonnie was alluding to a little bit, which is on certain packages of beverages, cans, bottles, what have you, would the deposit increase, even though it's refundable, the initial purchase such that it would turn some people off from buying certain products?
Yeah. It might.
Maybe there's no answer to that, Stephanie
Yeah.
and Chris. It's just kind of a.
It'll be
whatever.
it'll be my choice whether to give it up or.
So I also get South Mountain Creamery every week, and I actually get it for 2 other neighbors as well. And
Wow.
the amount of the deposit is a shocking number, because it's 3 times, whatever,
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 bottles. The first time you pay that, it is shocking. But then when you realize the next week you're not outlaying more because you're getting that back, you start to go a little bit blind to, as I do, to they send you the invoice and you see how much you're paying for the milk or the eggs and then how much for the deposit. So I don't even pay attention to the deposit amount anymore because I know I'm getting that back the next week. So
I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
I hear
it's
you.
gonna be
The
more
sticker
work for
shock
this
is hard.
elderly person. And yeah, I'm sorry. I thank you. Good to listen, good to hear, and thank you for having the meeting.
Well, thank you, Bonnie, for participating. We've got a few more minutes to go here because maybe a few more questions we have, but really very much appreciate your perspective. That's why we do these calls, to hear what's on folks' minds so we can take it into account. I
Thank you.
just want to say, from my perspective as a commissioner, and I won't speak for Liz since she's on the call, but I think she shares this view. That is that if we're going to, as a commission, endorse a proposition that would increase costs on people, it's critically important to ask them ahead of time if they support our doing that, as opposed to just doing it and then they wake up and say, oh gosh, my friendly neighborhood advisor neighbor commission vouched for a program that's going to cost me money. Again, I understand there's a refund here, and we are totally, as a family, individually, already way into this whole proposition of paying a deposit and getting it back. But nonetheless, it's very important to consult with folks and hear their views I believe, as a commissioner. I'm just a neighbor like all the rest of you. And I certainly would want my commissioner, I did previously want my commissioner to ask me my opinion on
Sure.
matters before just going ahead and doing something. So Bonnie, I'm speaking to you. Thank you for your comments. Any
And
other
thank you.
any other questions that we have? These were very good questions, even with a limited number of people. It'll make for a good recording for those who couldn't attend.
I just want to thank you for having this. It's appreciated, and I'm glad that you did it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Before we go, I'll just do my typical, is there anything we didn't address that anyone thinks we should have and would like to speak to now? You
I have
seem
something.
way too, yeah, go ahead, Liz.
But it's not about the bottle bill. It's about you, actually, and I just want to thank you for really leading the charge on doing these Zooms on various topics and letting me piggyback on them. Thank you very much. I am, as you said, I do want to know what the community thinks before we just go off, and vote our way as opposed to the way people think they would like us to vote. But I want to thank you for doing this and repeatedly doing it. So thank you, Bruce.
My pleasure. And one little pitch for Stephanie's organization. She's very humble. Zero Waste in DC has an entire program to reduce waste, and particularly plastic. Purging plastics is one of your 3 pillars, I believe, Stephanie, if I recall correctly. We did a
Yes.
program a year ago, last year around Earth Day, when Earth Day took stock of this global, massive, ongoing problem of plastic pollution. It's just incredible. It's horrendous. And it is not only pollution in mass, it's the micro and nanoplastic pollution, because plastics shed tiny particles that we now are finding are getting into everything, including our own bodies, that we're carrying these things around without really any clear idea of what the harmful effect might be. There might not be any, but it's a little hard to imagine that a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be there can't somehow get in the way. So in any event, I just want to credit you for the work you do otherwise beyond the bottle bill. So thank you, Stephanie. And
Thank
you
you,
are, of
Bruce.
course, you are a constituent of our ANC. So you're a neighbor here in Chevy Chase. So God bless you all the way around, Stephanie. And Chris, you too. Thank you so much. With that, folks, we will sign off unless there are any questions further. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you all
you
for
all
your
for
questions.
having us.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Much appreciated.
Good night.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank you
guys.
very much.
See you at the market.
Yep.